Here's my question, though.
Okay.
Should this be, and I'll probably have more to say about this since I've played more games.
Right.
Should this be an original story
Mm-hmm.
or based on a game? Now, let's put the caveat out there. Most of the recent successful video game adaptations,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking at Mario, Sonic, FNAF. Well, we've talked about FNAF.
Debatably so.
Arcane, the animated series, have all taken this idea of having the world
Mm-hmm.
and telling a story in that world as opposed to adapting a game one for one, because it is very hard to take a game that you play and essentially take out the narrative and put that in, because the narrative does have a certain level of interactivity that you just can't get in a movie, which is kind of where video game adaptations had been stumbling until recently.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, what are your thoughts?
I
Original
think-
story or based on a game?
Like you said, doing a game adaptation would be hard. I think, like, say you choose, I don't know, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, now you just made the Skyward Sword movie when they want to make the Zelda movie, where also the Zelda timeline is so freaking complicated. I think
No,
just
that's so true.
remove it entirely. Like, just say, we don't, like, this isn't part of the timeline. Like, this is just, it's a Zelda thing. Like, don't think about it too hard. I think it needs to rely on one game, but not be afraid to make its own story. And so it's kind of like I knew that the FNAF movie wasn't going to just be, based on FNAF 1. Or the Mario movie is not just going to be the story of New Super Mario Bros. Like, that's not happening. But I also think that something that FNAF and Mario have in common that I noticed that I didn't like was that I feel like they pulled in too many things and they had to shove everything from every game into it. So, like, the Mario movie, I really liked the Mario movie, but also, like, in one movie they did, like, the regular, like, the original Mario world, they did Mario Kart, they did Smash Bros, and so it's just kind of like they shoved it all in there almost as for you to be like, hey, look, that's like Mario Kart, hey, look, that's like Smash. And the FNAF movie did this too. You're like, oh, look, there's William Afton, there's the Golden Freddy, there's this and that. And that's fine, I guess, but it really, when you cram all of that in there, you're really, making your story so much more compressed, when the goal of all of these, from what I've seen, is to franchise. They really want to do like 3, 5, 8, I don't know, movies out of these things. So I'm like, okay, you already did Mario Kart. Are you going to do it again? Like, you already did Smash. Are you going to do it again? So, like, what I want from Zelda is, say, this is the Zelda movie, and we're going to loosely base our story off of Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, whatever. Choose one and say, we're going to loosely base it on this, but we're not going to stick to it too intensely, because Zelda is way too big of a universe to cram everything into one movie. And I'm kind of worried that might be what they do. They're like, oh, there's that guy and that guy and this guy and this, and it's just becomes a cameo fest of like, how many IP characters can we shove into like 2 hours? And when in reality we want a solid story from that instead. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's a very roundabout way to answer that question, but that's kind of where I'm at.
No, that's a really good answer, because you fully answered the question. And I'm in a similar boat where I'm like, I don't want Ocarina of Time the movie. I don't want Breath of the Wild the movie. Because to your point, there is a lot there. I think something that you didn't mention that would come from adapting one game
Yeah.
is you now not only have the expectation and the pressure of making a Zelda movie, flat out.
Right. Already
You
too much
already
pressure.
have a bare minimum level of expectation. Now put adapting a game on top of that, because most of the Zelda games, or at least any of the ones they would consider adapting, are very beloved. Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, like any of those games that they would consider adapting. Now your expectation is up here, which is arguably more than the initial expectation of just making a Zelda movie. And I think they have to get away from that. Otherwise, they're screwed.
Yeah.
If they come out and say, we're doing Ocarina of Time, the movie, it's over.
It's over.
Like, it's dead on arrival. It's over before it even started. Because everyone in their head has this idea of what an Ocarina of Time movie should look like. Or Ocarina of Time meant so much to me in my childhood. Like, just don't even touch that.
Right.
But like you said, pull from it. Pick one game to rely on and have that be your framework. So if you want to do like Skyward Sword, this is the beginning of the timeline. We're going to tell the origin of all these things, and that's your first movie? Sure. Let's do that.
Right.
But don't adapt Skyward Sword one for one. You can have like, oh, throughout this movie, we're going to craft the Master Sword. And by the time you get to the end of the movie, now it's this perfect weapon that's ready to fight the big bad Ganondorf or whoever. But still be an original story. That is what I want above all else, is that they have this original story that feels different from a game. If I wanted a Zelda game story, I'd just play a Zelda game.
That's what I'm saying. It can't
want
be a
something
game story.
different.
It can't be a game story because it's not a game. You know, that's where a lot of these video game adaptations get screwed. They're like, we need to do the game story. And it's like, well, yes, but no, because you have to acknowledge there's a difference in your medium. You know, this Breath of the Wild story does not work as a movie because it relies
as a game
so much on you going and exploring it based on your choices. You get to choose where it goes, and a movie, you lose that control. And so, you know, it just doesn't work. And you're like, oh, are you going to do 2 hours where you go fight 4 divine beasts, and then you go do 200 side quests and, you know, 100 and something shrines, and then go find 400 Korok seeds, and then Korok
We've gone over this.
We've gone over this. And you're going to go fight everyone again for the Master Cycle 0. You're going to go build a house. You're going to go build Terry Town. Like, there's so much there. Like, you can't do that. And you have to understand there's a difference in the medium.